Halo is one of those series that is always referenced and talked about throughout my entire childhood. As a PlayStation fanboy, I never really understood what the hype is about when it came to Halo. My narrow-minded ass was like, this series is whack. It can't be that good. Well, damn, I was wrong. After playing a few games of Halo, I was really hooked into the Halo train. The game was so good that I was eating humble pie every time I played the next installment in the series. And this was my experience playing Halo Combat Evolved to Halo 4. Oh, and just as an FYI, I played the game mostly on the Steam Deck, and the game handled pretty well. I rarely noticed any frame drops from the entire Master Chief Collection, but Halo 4 was when I started noticing some of the frame drops. But for the most part, the game handled 1080, 60 FPS like a pro. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I played the entire series on a PlayStation 4 controller, which to me feels very sacrilegious, but I don't really have an Xbox controller, so I recycled whatever spare controllers I had just lying around. But anyways, Halo Combat Evolved was a great introduction to the series. It took a while to get used to the controls since I was used to playing like Call of Duty FPS, but eventually I got the hang of it. Like, it was so weird that the reload button was on the right bumper. Like, I'm used to it being the square button on PlayStation, so every time I would just reload, I would turn on my flashlight instead. And I was also used to ADSing all the time, using left trigger, and since in Call of Duty, you have to kind of aim your weapon to get a better shot, I was used to using the left trigger. But in this game, the left trigger is reserved for you throwing a grenade. So guess what I do every time I see an enemy? Yep, that's right, I would throw a grenade at my feet and die. The other thing that blew me away was the Flood. Like, there are these hive mind creatures called the Flood, which would reanimate dead soldiers or Covenants into zombies that would beat your asses or shoot you on sight. In this particular level that I like, you had to run around this one level while the Flood kept bombarding your ass with gunfire and monsters. They were so relentless that they low-key made me panic at times due to the depleting ammo count, which gave me a sense of urgency to try to hightail my ass out of there before, I run out of resources. What made this level so memorable was the fact that the game doesn't force you to hoard your ammo. The enemies you kill drop random weapons, enabling you to keep returning fire as much as you want, while also switching up the gameplay if you end up with a weapon you didn't like or kept using the same gun over and over again. Like, in my opinion, this Halo was a pretty solid introduction to the series. The only part I found frustrating was the driving mechanic. I still don't like the fact that you have to control the Warthog using the left joystick for acceleration and then the camera stick to basically steer it. That felt so awkward to me. But if it's part of the Halo experience, I'll just suck it up and just adapt to it. As good as Halo Combat Evolved was, it was nothing compared to the next game in the series, which was Halo 2. I think it was the longest campaign and the most fun in my opinion. It was also the Halo that gave us this iconic scene as well.
Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
Like, you can't get any more badass than that. Master Chief summons the power of a UPS driver and delivers a bomb back to the Covenant. The craziest part about this is he jumps out of the ship and delivers the bomb without having any equipment to bring him back to the ship. And it goes to show that he will do anything to finish the mission, even if it means jumping out of the ship and flying through space with a nuke. This cutscene made me realize that Master Chief was literally built different. Like, this man is a man of few words. However, his actions speak louder than his words. So, the few words he does end up saying, you can't help but listen, because you're just curious to see what Master Chief is thinking. This is also the first Halo game where you can dual wield in the game, which was by far my favorite gameplay mechanic, because it's just fun. It was so fun that they pretty much featured it on the game cover too. So it's safe to say that I end up going akimbo in every level, every chance I can get, because it's just sick as hell. This Halo gave me the most nostalgia out of all the Halo series because there was a core memory I had about a specific level in this game. There was this one time I visited my uncle's house, and the first thing I noticed in the house was this Xbox set up by those old school SD, that's right, SD as in standard definition, big box TVs. It was so embarrassingly obvious that I really wanted to play the Xbox since my eyes were literally just fixated on that console. Plus the fact that he could see me like salivating from the mouth was probably another big hint. So he offers to let me play some of his Xbox games, and I remember specifically about a futuristic FPS game that stuck with me. I had a hard time pinpointing which Halo game it was, but all I remembered is that there was a level where you drove a tank through a bridge, shooting down shit as you moved towards the city. And after playing Halo 2, I reached the Metropolis mission, and all those feelings of nostalgia just hit me at once. It's like that scene of Anton Ego from Ratatouille, where he samples a dish and then brings him back to his childhood. Like, that's literally how I felt when I watched this scene. Like, it hit me that hard. This is also the point where I finally developed some FOMO from missing out on this amazing experience about the Halo games. Like, I'm really enjoying the gameplay and the story so far, and I've only played the second game. We still got 3 games left in the Master Chief collection, and I don't think I'm gonna slow down anytime soon. But then I got to the end of Halo 2. Then I got hit with the most iconic blue balls moment in all of gaming history.
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
I want it now!
Like, are you kidding? You can't just drop that one-liner like that and end the game. Like, I wanted to know the conclusion to this game. What's worse is, if you play this game back in 2004, you probably didn't even know when this story would get resolved. It could have been the next year or maybe even decades later. Like, just imagine the pain and torture that these Xbox players felt waiting for that epic conclusion of that one-liner in Halo 2. Like, I feel sorry for you Xbox guys. I hope the wait wasn't too long for y'all. But luckily, Halo 3 was released 3 years later, launching in September of the year 2007. So when I started playing Halo 3, the controls felt very similar to the first two games I've played, but there was just one difference. It was a little bit more responsive this time around, and they've added some cool armor abilities that replaced the button that was usually assigned for your flashlight. I think this addition was fine, in my opinion, since the game was bright enough where you didn't really need a flashlight most of the time, but the new armor powers were very underutilized for me, because I mostly forgot I even had those in my inventory at times since they were a new mechanic. But this game didn't really invoke the same strong emotions for me as it did for Halo 2. Instead, all I felt was this need for vengeance since they killed my boy, Sergeant Johnson. They also added the cool gravity hammer, which was so fun to play. In fact, every melee weapon in this game was pretty good. Like, it gave me PTSD when I realized that you can lunge forward. Like, it was too familiar. Like, it reminded me of that commando perk in MW2. Like, I'm getting straight PTSD all over again. It took me a while to get used to that lunge mechanic because you had to wait for the crosshairs to turn red before you can lunge at the enemy. So yeah, that was fun. But this was also the first Halo game that I remember struggling to fight some of the enemies. Because towards the end of the game, when you had to make this mad dash towards the end, was just straight brutal. And I wasn't even playing on the hardest difficulty. Like, there are times where I have to be clever with my approach in order to just survive that level. Because they just bombard things at you, like enemies and just straight bullshit. I honestly feel like I never really beat that mission. I just got lucky somehow. Overall, still not a bad game. So now we're going to move on to Halo ODST, which actually surprised me because I kind of like this game. It gave me Battlefield Bad Company 2 vibes. I didn't like the slow intro in the beginning because when we played as the mysterious guy collecting clues to the other team's whereabouts, I didn't really like that as much. I found that the memory callback that you had were a lot more fun than just the randoms missions. What I liked about this game is it puts into perspective what was going on around the human race during the Covenant invasion. Like, you got to see throughout the level design and the audio logs that shit really went down in the cities. And it helped paint a picture of how bad the cities were while Master Chief was fighting in the front lines. I think missions in this game were more epic than some of the other games in the series, but not as much as compared to Halo Reach. Like, in my opinion, I kind of like where they went with the direction of like the battles in Halo ODST, but in Reach, they kind of cranked that volume up and put in more epic fights while also pulling at your heartstrings. I spent the first part falling in love with my team, and then having them ripped away one by one as they sacrifice themselves throughout the story. I think the most dramatic death was seeing the girl die in front of my eyes.
According to Holland, the Covenant are still hunting for something.
Where does he get off calling a demolition a priority one?
Oh, what the fuck? Damn, dude. I was a headshot too.
That's so sad. I mean, at least we have the body recovered, but in Jorge's case, or George, damn. I literally imagine the future with this girl, having a house in the mountainside in Hawaii while I have 2.5 kids with her, and then all of a sudden, her life just gets snuffed out like a light, ending whatever hopes of a future I had with this girl. And don't get me started with that ending too. It hits just as hard, except when it kind of forced me to just die in the middle of nowhere. I thought it was gonna be like endless waves till you get overwhelmed or something, but in my opinion, it doesn't really take away from the impact the ending has. It still hits pretty hard, especially since you see my boy here getting overwhelmed by all the Covenant, and he's just really fighting for his life, but at the end, it was just overwhelming.
And because of you, we found Halo, unlocked its secrets, shattered our enemy's resolve. Our victory, your victory, was so close. I wish you could have lived to see it.
And then we got Halo 4 at some point, I don't know when, but I think this game was pretty exceptional. They actually mixed up the formula here and gave you a new enemy faction to fight with, along with a whole bunch of new weapons from them as well. Like, these new weapons that the Prometheans drop is too cool not to use. Like, every time I see it on the ground, I pick that shit up because it reminds me of some like Warzone bundle. But at least this skin comes with a game and you don't have to buy this shit. I also think the story here was pretty good. It gave Master Chief some complexity to his character by kind of exploring his relationship with Cortana. So it's not like some plot from like that movie Her, you know, when he just like falls in love with some AI. But I think he's just genuinely sad that Cortana is one of his last allies and is dying. And so when she's gone, that's it. You know, Master Chief is all alone. It's been like 4 years since he's seen his last homies, and they've all probably died from the events of Halo 3 or just moved on. So understandably, Master Chief tries his very best to save Cortana before she gets her brain scrambled from not receiving any Windows update. And if I had to criticize this game about something, it will be the boss fight. The boss was kind of whack. I mean, there's the cool cutscenes, but I would like to take a couple more shots against this jackass, because he spent the entire game just throwing us around like we were some ragdoll. So I would have loved an extra cutscene where I can just put a bullet right in between his eyes. But hey, at least Cortana did one last favor to Master Chief before she really had to go away. And I ain't gonna lie, after I saw this cutscene, I felt like someone was cutting onions in the room. Like, it was pretty emotional, I'd have to say. Just looking at Master Chief say bye to Cortana one last time. I would have reviewed Halo 5 and Halo Infinite, but that shit's kinda expensive and I heard they're not as good. But overall, with the Halo Master Chief Collection, I feel like I had a good experience. Master Chief is a man of few words, but he lets his actions speak for himself, which is kinda badass. And the fact that we haven't seen what Master Chief looks like under the helmet only helps us put ourselves in his shoes and imagine that we were the ones fighting the Covenant and carrying planet Earth to victory. I think the combat got better throughout the series. Halo Reach was probably the best feeling Halo I've ever played, and then from then on the combat just got better and better. It's probably mostly due to the fact that I can run and gun often. So the fact that my character has the ability to just sprint made me the happiest guy in the world, because that's how I love to play, just running and gunning. The weapons in this game were pretty nice to use too. I really dig all the Covenant weapons, but I don't know if it's just a maturity thing, but the UNSC weapons became my go-to whenever I find them on the floor. Because if you asked me a couple years ago which weapons I would use, I would probably go with the Covenant, but I don't know. The UNSC weapons just grew on me. Overall, as a PlayStation fanboy, I will admit I'm kind of jealous that Xbox had this amazing game in their lineup this whole time. If that rumor that Xbox is bringing some of their games to PlayStation is true, then us PlayStation folks might have a chance to experience one of the most influential games in history, which is kind of exciting. Maybe we'll actually get another Halo game, and then I'll be first in line to play the new one when it comes out. So anyways guys, if you guys liked the video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and then I'll see you guys on the next one.